on it every now and then, and eventually you'll get little sprouts. And once you get a little.
All right, I know folks are coming into the room, so welcome. We'll give it a few more seconds, another minute to let folks join and audio join. All right. Okay. So the number looks stable. So I think we're good to start. So thank y'all for coming. This is Thursday, day 3 of programming, day 4 of Black and Environment Week, and we're really excited to have you all here and to be able to share this space with our amazing guests that we have this evening. As you noticed, we'll be recording this and posting this to our YouTube page, but during the Q&A session, all of our guests are spotlighted, and so if you do turn on your camera, you won't be captured in the recording as a participant, but certainly if you would like to ask your question off mute, your audio will be captured. So just something to keep in mind. So I will start with introductions. And first I'd like to start with our thank you to our sponsors and our gratitude. So Black and Environment is deeply grateful to both the Environmental Defense Fund, the University of Michigan, and BivUbac based in Ann Arbor for their generous donations and gifts in support of this week's programming and guest speakers, as well as the prizes being donated for our raffle. As part of that, you can fill out a survey at the end of this event and be entered to win one of those great prizes. So to start with our amazing speakers for tonight, first we have Kareemah Batts. Kareemah is founder of the Adaptive Climbing Group, which is a nonprofit program for people with disabilities in the sport of climbing. Kareemah is the 2023 winner of the American Alpine Club's Changemaker of the Year Award and a founding member of the USA Climbing Diversity, Equity, Inclusion Committee since 2019. When not traveling around the world advocating for inclusion in climbing and the outdoors, you can find her featured in some of your favorite publications and outdoor-related podcasts like New York Times, Climbing Magazine, For the Love of Climbing, Dirtbag Diaries, National Public Radio, and more. Next up, we have Dr. Jasmine Childress. Jasmine Childress obtained her PhD from the Department of Ecology, Evolution, and Marine Biology at the University of California, Santa Barbara. She will be joining the biology department at Stanford University as a National Science Foundation postdoctoral research fellow in biology. A professional athlete, she plays competitive ultimate frisbee for LA Astra and enjoys hiking. This also includes participation in the Color of Ultimate, an organization whose goal is to bring awareness about the socioeconomic and racial inequity of the sport of ultimate frisbee. And she is also the recipient of the 2017 Strong, Smart, and Bold Award from the Girls Incorporated of Greater Santa Barbara. Next, we have Amber Wendler. Amber Wendler has a wide breadth of outdoor experiences from field research, outdoor education, volunteer work, and recreation that has brought her across the US and Latin America. Some of her favorite outdoor activities include running, backpacking, bird watching, kayaking, and snorkeling. Amber is passionate about making the outdoors more inclusive and is the co-editor of an up-and-coming book titled Men Outside: Adventures of Black Women, Non-Binary, and Gender Non-Conforming People in Nature, which will be published by Mountaineers Books in the fall. She's also been featured in Backpacker Magazine and She Explores podcast. And finally, we have Sidney Woodruff. Sidney is a PhD candidate at the University of California, Davis in the graduate group in ecology. Their research revolves around the conservation of native reptile and amphibian species and how invasive species affect their persistence. Parts of the research require backpacking and hiking to remote places to collect field data, which was new to Sidney until recently. By association, Sidney was exposed to new outdoor hobbies that before seemed unattainable. Now in their parentheses, little free time, they enjoy trying new outdoor hobbies and have found a love for rock climbing and skiing. So with that, I'd like to get started. And while I introduced your amazing bios and a bit of additional information about you each, I'd really love it if you could each introduce yourself and how you got into your particular sport or activity. Sidney, why don't we start with you, and then you can popcorn it to the next person.
Yeah, well, thanks for the introduction. Again, my name is Sidney. So yeah, I kind of got into the outdoor field, like I mentioned in that bio, almost by proxy of getting into the outdoor science field. So any sort of data collection I needed to take on wildlife required me to go out into the field and sample these remote locations, which I had to figure out how to backpack and hike because it was all new to me. So, doing all of the hardcore Googling and looking through blogs and trying to rank which backpack is best. And then you end up getting the cheapest one, and then it doesn't work for you, all that kind of stuff. So I started to do that at Yosemite National Park as a park ranger, which is pretty much like the pilgrimage, of climbing for outdoor climbing. And all of my crewmates were doing all of this climbing, and it was really intimidating to kind of go up to them, and be like, hey, I know you're doing all these big wall climbs and multi-pitch stuff, but can you take a day to go to this little bitty crack in the wall over here and like teach me how to tie in and everything? But yeah, once I started to do it, had some little interesting experiences here and there that we can talk about later, but I really, enjoyed it. And I like flipping it now and being that person to take people out. So trying to make sure that they're in a safe and welcoming place in the rock climbing gym, which is very intimidating. And also accepting that they might not like it, and that's okay. They might be afraid of heights, and that's okay. So we can work through that stuff.
You get to pick the next person.
Amber, go ahead.
Hi, I'm Amber. I am a PhD student at Virginia Tech, and similar to Sidney, I have also been doing field research, so going out into the field and collecting data for research. I would say I started to get into more outdoor activities when I was an undergrad. I eventually joined the outdoors club at my university. I would see them post different trips that they were going on. And my freshman year, I was a bit too intimidated to join, but then I eventually felt comfortable enough going to a meeting. And from there, I was hooked. They provided the gear, the transportation, the expertise. So this really knocked a lot of barriers down that I had and made it possible for me to start going on more difficult hikes. Went on my first camping trip in undergrad, and really expanded from there to backpacking, climbing, and just about anything outdoors. I'm down. I will pass it on to Jasmine.
I think I probably have a fairly similar background of research got me into the outdoors, but I got into research from the outdoors. So it was a little bit of cyclical reinforcing because my mom went back to get her bachelor's degree to finish her bachelor's degree when I was like in middle school, high school. And she studied biology, animal behavior. And so as a little kid, I got to pal around, I think it was a product of like a single mom, babysitter away. You're coming to my class today, or coming to my lab, my lab practical. And I don't know, I was just pretty smitten from day one with all the like reptiles in the jars and the birds that were preserved. And so as a little kid, my mom is also into the outdoors. So we went to a lot of wildlife society meetings at her university. And the second, I think I was like 10 when I realized that you could have a career chasing animals around, and that was it. That was it for me. So yeah, that's what got me started, and has like fostered my love for the outdoors. And actually how I met Sid was out in Yosemite while I was working on my dissertation, and it was the dead of night, and I was like, I don't know, I think there's a Black person over there, never seen another Black person in Yosemite. I'll have to talk to them in the morning, and the rest is history. So that was pretty awesome. And then I came to Ultimate Frisbee a few years ago when I started my PhD program. I'm out here in California. It's a pretty popular sport. And we can talk about my day one of being in Ultimate Frisbee community and racialized experiences, because, or we could say that for another day, but it was a pretty interesting experience to get out and play a new sport, but then also realize that the community is pretty homogenous and not diverse. So that's why it's been pretty rewarding to take part in organizations like the Color of Ultimate, and getting out and basically just exposing that, yeah, people of color play this sport too. So yeah, and I will pass it to Kareemah.
Thank you, Doctor. I appreciate it. My name is Kareemah Batts, pronouns she, her, born and raised in Brooklyn, New York, and currently speaking to you from Durham, North Carolina for the next few days. And I came into the outdoors, actually, I think my earliest outdoor experience was being in the backyard with my uncle who helped raise me, because we, built a garden back there, and that was probably my favorite place to be in the house. And then he was an avid fisher and grew up in South Carolina, and he would take me on those trips. And at 4 years old, I realized I hated fishing because I kept pricking my finger with hooks, but I liked being in the dirt, and I liked the camping part, and I liked being in the canoe part. So if I was to say, oh, that was my first experience being in love with the outdoors as a child, that was definitely it. As an adult, I had a second connection with the outdoors after I survived a very rare form of stage 4 cancer called synovial sarcoma, which made me an amputee left below the knee. And I actually started climbing within a year of me being in remission. I had never done anything like that before. And at that time, I was in a purpose of trying everything and testing out what this, new body can do. And I found that it quieted my mind. It stopped me from day drinking and depression due to my condition, and snowballed to me creating Adaptive Climbing Group, which is the largest program for people with disabilities in rock climbing in the country. And we sponsor people nationally, internationally to compete. We also do ice, rock, and indoor programming 365 days a year. That's what I'm most known for. We celebrated our 11th year last month, and we received the Change Maker of the Award last month from the American Alpine Club for that. So that was a pretty big deal. They had a brand new award, and then we got it. So we beat out Yves Chenard, who's the founder of Patagonia, who was the finalist. So that's kind of a big deal. Because he gave away like $1 billion. So we didn't. But I think one of the things that, I'm most proud of is the fact that, through the nonprofit, which I do completely for free, is that we create more leaders of a diverse culture. And what's unique for me is that in the population I serve, people with disabilities have an intersectionality of, race, gender, culture, sexual orientation, that a lot of the other groups that serve underserved communities within the outdoors don't have to, they get to say, oh, well, this is the, Asian climbing group, or this is the, Latino outdoors. And I don't have that choice to go like, oh, well, I just only want Black women in this group, which also, I believe, also taught me a lot of different ways to interact with people, and also to create a zero tolerance policy that allows 20 totally different people to be in the same house and go climbing. So I think that like it's been a catalyst for change, you know, beyond the sport for me. And that's why I love doing it.
That's awesome. Thank
I
you all so
guess
much.
Dr. Hoover, you're the last,
Oh, yeah.
you're the last
Yeah.
person. I guess I pass it to you.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you all so much for sharing. And it's actually really kismet, because it leads very nicely into the first discussion question that I had for you all, that I think you all kind of hinted at in different ways. And so, you know, this is Black and Environment Week. This is the Black and Outside, Black and Outdoors day of that week. And, you know, one of the things that I would like to hear y'all discuss, right, is certainly, right, race is a part of it in terms of how we experience the spaces that we're navigating. But, you know, as was mentioned, right, gender and ableism, disability, all of these additional things, right, influence how we're experiencing space, how we are experiencing being welcomed into space. And I think with the four of you, the particular types of activities and sports that you're doing, right, are also unique in and of themselves, and then added with all of these additional layers. And so I really love to hear you all share a bit about how you continue to kind of navigate that fear or that apprehension, or you know, doing something so new and unique. And what are some of the ways that you've been able to kind of make and carve out that space for your own, in spite of those things? And whoever feels called to respond first can go for it.
I'll go first since I went last. I'll round it back around.
There you go. Yeah.
Yeah. I think for me, and that goes for the way I choose things in general, is if I don't have a comparance bar, I'm more likely to try it. Because there's the bar for failure doesn't exist because there isn't the one before me. And I think because when I chose rock climbing, I knew I'd never done it before. And so I was like, well, I don't expect to get anything out of it. I don't expect to get too far. So I'm not overthinking it as much if I am the first person in the space. And then in all the places that I'm in, I'm usually the only one of me in some way. I'm either the only able-bodied person at the Black Outdoor Summit, or I'm the only, I'm only amputee at the only plus size woman in the climbing festival. It's one of those things. And so at first I used to try my best to kind of fit into a space, wear the right clothes, wear the right colors, you know what I mean? And then after a while, I was like, it doesn't matter. Like one way or another, someone's going to stare at me. So I'm just gonna give them something to stare at. So like all my trail clothes are super bright, and I wear my hipster clothes to the outdoor summit. I really don't care. Like I stopped caring like a long time ago. Like the thing is, like, people always talk about how do you fit into a space, and instead of kind of letting the world conform around you, like make it ergonomic. I wear a prosthetic leg and the socket is ergonomic. I didn't make my body fit the prosthetic in order to improve my quality of life. My quality of life improved around me. You know what I mean? And I'm popcorning it to Amber.
Thank you. Okay, so there's a lot to unpackage there. I guess, yeah, the more experience I got doing these activities and, potentially not succeeding, made me realize that I am capable of trying these hard things. I am capable of overcoming obstacles, and that there isn't necessarily one path, and that I don't have to fit a particular narrative. So realizing that I can pave my own way, and realizing that more as I've connected with other Black people who also enjoy outdoor activities, and really expanding my circle, which it's been really great to be able to do that via social media and these Black and X weeks like Black and Environment. I'm going to pass it to Sidney.
Sweet. Yeah, I think you guys all probably did the same thing that I did, where, yeah, when you're trying this new obscure sport, especially rock climbing, which is always considered this like outsider activity, right? And I think the people in the rock climbing community try to make themselves be the outsider. I'm like, you know, against the mainstream, and I live in a van and my Mercedes van, you know. But I think when I went into a sort of, or first entered a rock climbing space, it's like I knew that everyone else was identifying as an outsider, even though I was still feeling like the other in all of these places that I went into, like the afterthought, I think. And it sucks because you go into these spaces and you're putting yourself out there, so you actually let your guard down and try to meet people in these spaces, and you quickly realize like this space was not made with you in mind, essentially. And it's a really hard-hitting feeling to let your guard down because you think this is going to be a safe space, and then you are immediately reminded, oh yeah, that was not a fun thing that they just said. Or Kareemah, you were talking about like when I put on the harness, I'm like, man, this is the largest harness I saw on the shelf, but it's barely fitting over my hips right now, and no one else is experiencing this. So I'm just going to be over to the side and deal with this. And I think I started to go to all of these different specialized social, you know, communities, and I did feel like I had to pick what I was going to highlight that day. You know, there was the broad climbers of color group meeting. So I go there and I'm like, okay, I'm going to push my queerness to the side, all of this other stuff. And I'm just going to be a person of color today. And then someone says something that hits your queerness. And it's like, I let my guard down, but now I got to put it back up. And then maybe I go and try out the queer climbing space, but then I have to up my queerness, and then sometimes feel like I have to like decrease my Blackness in that space. And it sucks that I felt like I had to go through these different experiences to finally realize that like, yeah, all of these spaces are going to be new to me, and I'm going to hit roadblocks, but I get to dictate how I move through these spaces, knowing that I don't have to just assimilate to these spaces. So similar to what Jasmine was saying, like when we met out in the field, it's like I do that at events now too. Like I go to a queer climbing group, and then I see like the other Black person or the only other person of color, and we do like the little nod, you know, like, all right, we're gonna stick together. So I think I've just started to be very intentional and figure out who I want to direct my energy towards. And it's not going to be the people that continually remind me that I'm the other in the group. I'm going to find those people that share those same identities. It just sucks that you kind of have to go, or at least I went through those spaces first, because you think that you're going into a safe space. So, yeah, and I think I get always hope with the future because I see all of these other great panelists that also do all of this other outside work. And now we're starting to see more representation. Like my first like outdoor community event was like an outdoor Afro event. And that was like, oh yeah, we're out here. I just got to find them. But yeah, thankfully those types of spaces are just becoming more and more common. So I don't feel as much as like an outsider in those when I move through these different sports or hobbies. So Jasmine.
Yeah, I think again, a lot of what you all have said has resonated deeply with me. I think coming to the sport of ultimate frisbee, so I was pretty new in my PhD program, and I had played volleyball, basketball, track my whole life, and I played volleyball for my university. So I'd always had this sort of like automatic friendship and always at least one Black teammate in my life. Not a lot, but you form that camaraderie. And so when I got to grad school, it was a whole new world of not having automatic sports to fill that void. And so I tried out ultimate frisbee, and on day one, I'm running around. I was bad. I was really bad. I'm not so bad at frisbee now, according to other people, but I was not good. I caught a couple of discs, but that was it. And as we were winding down, stretching for the day, I was sitting with a couple of people who were also, I think, new to the sport. I can't quite remember. And somebody had asked me, oh, have you played ultimate frisbee before? And I was like, no, outside of like gym class, which like, does that count for anybody? That's the only other time I'd heard about this sport with heavy quotation marks. And she was like, oh, but I think you're really good. And before I could say like, before I could respond at all, say thank you, the third person that we were with looked at her and was like, it's called genetics. And I gathered my things. I didn't say another word. And by the time I got to the parking lot, I was on the phone with my mom, just, cussing and fussing. Like, I tried this new thing. I show up one day. I didn't even want to come. This isn't even a real sport. And was ready to walk away. And my mom said, well, did you have fun today? And I was like, yeah, sure. Like I ran around, I caught some discs. I can't throw, I'm trash, but like, it was fun. And she was like, okay, well, if it wasn't for that interaction, do you think that you would go back? And I was like, yeah, I think I'd give it a go. Like, it's at least a way to like get out and be outside and meet some new people. And I had never even lived in California before. So I was brand spanking new to the scene. And so she was like, okay, well, I tell you what, if you think that this person is also new, like, why don't you just give it a try? If it brings you joy, don't let somebody else stop you from exploring it. And I was a little frustrated, but I came back, and here we are, like 5 years-ish later. And it's I've been able to carve out community, and again, like I couldn't even put a face to that person anymore because I don't think they were a staple in the community. I think they came out to try it just like me, but needless to say, those types of incidents are not uncommon in the sport. And I think when I was first getting started, there weren't any places to reach out like that were holding spaces for like Black ultimate frisbee players, because I'm in Santa Barbara and I didn't see my first Black person until like 3 months after I moved here. It's an incredibly white and unwelcoming environment. And so I am thankful that, as you all have said, putting yourself in these positions of, I've had these experiences. Hopefully when I see and meet other people who are like us, like we can uplift and invite and bring them in and conform the space around them instead of making them fit the space. And a couple of years ago, so that's like the Color of Ultimate organization that was started, which is open to all people of color, but specifically for Black people, it's a really hostile sport. So I can't tell you how many conversations I've had. I've sat on a couple of panels with our like national governing body of the sport to talk about the anti-Blackness specifically. So if you watch us do our thing, a lot of times the critique is, you're too loud, you're too aggressive, you're too flamboyant, you're too in your face. Like, it doesn't matter. It's common, especially for Black women. And when I celebrate, if I do something cool, like I'm gonna get up and I've got that energy, I'm celebrating, or my teammate does something cool, I'm getting up, I've got that energy, I'm celebrating. But the number of times that people have gone up to my coach and have been like, that number 11 is really aggressive. And I'm like, I don't even know who you are. I haven't talked to you. I haven't looked in your general direction. I just went out and I dunked on you. Sorry to say it, but like, a dunk is a dunk and it's really cool. It doesn't matter if I do it or a teammate does it. Like, I'm hyping that up. And so I am really, I feel really privileged that I had a friend, Shani Crawford, and actually when I get done here, I'll link her website, because she started an intentionally Black space for ultimate frisbee players throughout the country. And it's called Discover Diversity, DISC Diversity for short. And she started an all Black tour. So I was one of 10 founding members. And we went to 3 cities. So, well, I didn't end up getting to go because I had to move to Switzerland, but neither here nor there. But the idea of the tour was to go to Philly and then the Bay Area and then Seattle and put on showcase games. So there were 10 core players. And then in those 3 respective cities, it was open to whoever was Black and whoever wanted to play Ultimate Frisbee. And we put on a showcase game. And it was beautiful. It was such a celebration, and it was so uplifting. And whereas I felt like I was one of one in a lot of these spaces, we have a GroupMe Discord servers now with hundreds of players from across the country, and more are being added every day because they're stumbling into these spaces that we have carved out for ourselves. And I think that it's been really grateful to be a part of. Yeah, thanks for linking, Avo. Hi, that's a Frisbee buddy. But it's been really joyful to be a part of like carving these spaces for us to make that inviting atmosphere and figure out if you enjoy the sport or not. So yeah, I'll transition it back to Dr. Fuchsia.
Thank you. Well, let me give a quick opportunity if any of you want to respond to each other in this moment before I move things along.
I was just realizing I recognized Sydney's visage. That's all. I was like, I swear, you know how like you, because the climbing community is very large, but also very small at the same time. And so you might have seen, I was like, I've seen this person's face before, but I can remember where, and it's like in someone's picture and someone else's Instagram post at an event. And I just wanted to mention that. So, hi.
Great. That's great. And just and you can definitely correct me if I have this wrong, Dr. Childress, but I'm pretty sure so a dunk, right, is when there's like 2 players and the player comes up behind the other player, right, and grabs the disc out of okay, yeah. So
I like to say dunk because that's what we all know. But in the Frisbee world, people will say sky. So it's just 2 people going up to catch a disc, but one gets it and the other doesn't.
okay.
And I like doing that. I don't always do it, but occasionally.
Got it. No, and this, I mean, so I did 2 years of Ultimate also when I was in grad school. First time doing like a truly team sport. I was a swimmer in college and high school, which is team, but like you literally stay in your lane, you know? So I think the level of spatial awareness that Ultimate requires was incredibly difficult. And I've also dabbled in climbing and did one 3-day backpacking trip, and whew, it's quite the physical challenge, mental challenge, emotional challenge. You know, I'm not afraid of heights until I look down and I'm at the edge. And so yeah, I mean, I think the kind of level of even just fortitude, right, that the sports that y'all participate in requires physically, mentally, emotionally, is so admirable. And then that you are also simultaneously creating these spaces and pushing through to build your own communities and create spaces for that intersectionality that is still not there, right? I just want to, you know, take a moment to honor that and just reiterate and continue to reiterate how incredible that work is, and how grateful that I and many others are that y'all are doing that work. And so thinking about, you know, the ways that you're all building the community that isn't quite there, right, and showing up for yourselves even when there isn't anyone to show up for you in that space, and choosing things like joy, right, and just, are you having fun in spite of these other things? I'm curious, like who is on your team? Like, who do you all consider to be, you know, the folks that you go to when you were just beginning this work, when you need those moments of kind of recharge. Kareemah, I know you mentioned your uncle taking you out and gardening when you were younger, and Dr. Childress, you mentioned, your mom, like, but did you have fun? So who are those folks that you have as part of your team? And do you have a kind of favorite memory or a moment that you go back to kind of remind yourself, like, this is why I'm here. This is why I continue to show up for myself, and put myself first in terms of, your joy and what that sport is giving to y'all.
Maybe I can start this one.
Yeah.
Because I think I can give both in the context of ultimate frisbee and just by nature. So I study parasites of wild animals, and so that is, what gets me outdoors outside of frisbee. I think maybe just last week I made a new memory that I'll probably hold on to that just fits the mold of your question. And I gave my exit seminar for my dissertation, and I am the oldest of 8 kids, and my parents, grandparents, and 4 of my siblings were able to fly out from Indiana. One of my sisters had never been to California before, and they got to see me talk for 45 minutes about what I do with tiny little Channel Islands foxes and their parasites. And my mom is super outdoorsy, but I wouldn't say, aside from like, cookouts or walking in the woods outside the house, I wouldn't say that my family is really big on camping or hiking. But it was a real joy to share with my family what I do. And there's a little seal rookery like 20 minutes away from where I live. And my grandma, who's 72, whose knees are bad, but who won't say no and is always up for an adventure, was like, yeah, let's go see the seals. And I was like, I don't know, we have to hike out like 2 miles. Your knees are bad. I don't know about this. She was like, no, we can do it. And we went out there, and like my grandparents, my dad, my siblings were just over the moon, enthused. And when we came back and after they went home and I was here to decompress, I feel like maybe it's telling, but I struggle with putting myself first, because I think as the eldest child of 8, my job in life was to do all of the things right and be the example for all the younger siblings to follow. So I've sort of thought about everything that I am doing is for my siblings and for my family. And so I think, falling back on them, and they're really my community from the start, but of course making friends like with like Sid out with like doing research, which is serendipitous, which, full disclosure, Sid's part of my community. I'm a part of their community. But yeah, I think that's a memory that I'm going to hold on to for a really long time. And in the darkest struggles of like, why am I in this academic space, in this ecology space that is also clearly not meant for me? I'm doing all of this work outdoors that wasn't meant for, what I guess I should say was historically exclusionary. I think it's meant for all of us, truly. But yeah, I think that's going to be a core memory that will come back to really fuel me and remind me of why I like doing what I do. I will maybe pass it to Kareemah.
Thank you. I think that is an ever evolving thing for me, because I've been doing this for 11 years now. So, when I started, it was almost selfish because I found climbing through that scholarship program in Colorado Mountain School in 2011. And that was through a young adult cancer survivor program. And I was living in East New York projects at the time with my ex. And so, I was in a very different place emotionally, financially, everything. And it, kind of was like a spiritual awakening to have that experience for a week out in Colorado and learn all of these things about climbing from multi-pitch and all this other stuff like that. And then coming back and then having something else to focus on. And that was, kind of like my why for a while. And then things evolved from there as my life changed, and it constantly does evolve. But I think the thing that keeps me you say who my people are the community that was developed around me. And that includes all my program leaders that come in, all the participants, the allies and brands that used to reject me and now accept me because they changed their hiring practices and have actually cool people that understand what we're doing. You know, like it's like every day there's a new why. You know what I mean? So, and I can never say, oh yeah, who's my community? I'm like, the community is kind of epically huge right now. You know, I'm here in Durham because I'm putting together a training camp for paraclimbers, and you know, I'm all about equity and all its intersectionality. And so no, I'm not charging anybody. And yeah, I got to find sponsors to cover hotel rooms for people coming out of state, and you know, getting sponsors to give climbing gear and chalk bags and the gym to allow us to come in and not charge anybody and have like 40 people here, you know, like from as far as Fresno, California, you know, to come here. And then that's my new why. Like right now, as of this month, I'm like, I can't believe this came together. And, you know, we still have money in our pockets while it's happening. And this is happening because there is a love from the community that's never been hosted this training camp before. You know what I mean? Like, and then okay, this is my new why, right? Like, you know, so, and when I started 11 years ago, there was no Black and Environment Week. There was definitely not a collective space for people of color who love and work in the outdoors to collectively gather and know and find each other. And so I did feel very alone, especially in my sport in paraclimbing. I think people forget that people with disabilities is not a monolith. And I was definitely the only person of color leading programming for people with disabilities, and one of the few people with disabilities leading something for people with disabilities. And so you put those intersectionalities of feeling alone and, you know, yeah, so then you have that. And now I'm in a space where even though I was the only Black paraclimber at the Adaptive Climbing Festival like 6 months ago, still with 180 people being there in Red River Gorge, I'm not the only Black person I can talk to about working in the outdoors or working with specific outdoor brands to partner with who might have historically, you know, disadvantaged a bunch of different communities, sexes, and races, you know, and I can have a place to empty those feelings out so I can continue to do the work for our communities. And I think that is kind of the biggest thing for me.
I could
Hold on
go.
a second. I think, okay, because I was like, no, I passed it to you before, Amber. That's why I hesitated. But since you answered, Amber, go ahead.
All right. Yeah. Awesome. Well, to start about, you know, who kind of got me into the outdoors and fostered my love of nature. So as a kid, even though I wasn't, you know, going to national parks or going on camping trips or climbing, my childhood wasn't void of nature. We would go to the zoo, botanical garden, like Museum of Natural History. I grew up in New York City too, and then the suburbs right outside the city. And so all of these things from a young age really, you know, started my bond with the outdoors. And there was a lot of free nature events that my parents would bring us to, which was really great. And so things that kind of keep me going and various moments are getting other people into the outdoors, other people of color, other Black people. And one organization that I volunteer with, the Humble Hustle Company based in Roanoke, Virginia, near where I go to school, they have this Humble Hikes program and take elementary, middle school Black kids from Roanoke outside. And one event that I participated in recently, a lot of the kids said that they were afraid of heights, that they didn't think that they'd be able to do the hike that we were going on. So it was this really big rock scramble, all these boulders, and the kids had to climb up over them. And, you know, they didn't have on hiking clothes and what people would normally think, like wearing jeans and Jordans or other, you know, not hiking shoes, but all of them, despite saying that they were afraid of heights and didn't think they could do it, absolutely crushed it and made it to the top. And just seeing them have that transition of doubting themselves in the beginning and then doing it, and the joy that they felt from it, really was a special moment for me. And just, you know, giving back and helping that next generation. And because a lot of people helped me get to where I am today. And so yeah, building community with other folks and volunteers that also want to get this next generation into the outdoors. And then also realizing that there was a point when I realized that even though these spaces may not exist where I am, I have the capacity to create them, to build community. And that was super empowering. So I started a group with other Black students within my department and other science fields. And then with this book project that was mentioned earlier, Been Outside, that created a community of 22 Black women, Black non-binary people who share similar interests. And it wasn't just something where people would submit their pieces. We would get together regularly and have conversations. And that was incredibly empowering and affirming, and just hearing the positive feedback too of people saying like, I didn't have this and I really needed this, and this is helped me. And so it's really nice to see that everyone is appreciating that space, and it's just continuing to expand. Sidney, take it away.
Man, it's just kind of wild that like all of us have done so much as in creating, like, I mean, we have people in school that are, you know, winning all of these awards, but then also realizing like, I want to do this fun thing on the side and there's nothing out there, so I'm just going to build it myself, and figure it out as I, you know, along the way or something. But yeah, so when I grew up in Alabama and Georgia, and I talk about this a little bit in the essay that Amber was talking about in the book, that there's not a lot of safe places to go outside and, you know, hike in Alabama or Georgia. Like you hear a lot of horror stories about people that like went into the wrong neck of the woods, right? Or also the options you have for hiking or backpacking or something. They're all along like historical battlefield places that are like along the Civil War. So it's like, I want to go and have fun and kind of clear my mind, but then now I gotta hike past the sign that is like, this is a mass burial site of blah, blah, blah. And you're just like, dang, like can't escape nowhere. And it immediately pushes you away from it. So you don't even think that like, that's a thing that I would even consider doing for fun, or why would I do that again? And then my family, I could never get my mom and my sister to camp, like never, that's just not gonna happen. And then like even on my dad's side, when I tell them like, yeah, I'm gonna be in the field for like 8 days, backpacking, they're like, are you like harvesting berries out there? What are you eating? Like, do you have to hunt animals? And I'm like, no, I'm eating like packaged food. Like, and they're also kind of doing the same thing where it's like, we've been working so hard to get out of outside. Why do you want to go back and put a tent outside and sleep in that tent? I was like, okay, yeah, I recognize that. So yeah, it's like all new, getting into these places. So I think I also agree with Kareemah that like my community is always evolving. And I think that social media has like been the biggest help with that, the online community. And it's like I see familiar names all of the time too, because we all show up in these like different spaces. But so yeah, that's even like how I met Timmy through like a woke space, to kind of like a special place that kind of popped up and during 2020 when, you know, we're all kind of stuck at home. It was defined as a women of color space. And that was a place, you know, just like we'd get on Zoom and sit and talk for an hour, play Drawasaurus online, and, you know, talk about different experiences we all had. So I really credit the online community that I've built, because I don't have those people necessarily with me here in like Davis, California or something. So yeah, that's been the biggest help. And then of course, when you finally get to meet these people, it's amazing. But yeah, what keeps me going? Just piggyback on everyone else. It's the second you've introduced someone new to the sport and you see the thing click in their head where they didn't think they could do that. So I'm always gonna go back to rock climbing. But yeah, I have friends that come with me because I get like a free guest pass, you know, because a day pass is hella expensive. So I'm like, let's do the free guest pass. And we can, you know, rent all my gear or use all my gear and everything. And they're like, I don't think I can do rock climbing. Like, I can't do a pull up. And I'm like, first of all, don't need to know how to do a pull up because I can't do that. Everyone can rock climb in some capacity. And to finally, like, you know, they get to the top and you lower them down and they like look at you and they're like, what? Like, you know, that's just like such a great feeling. And then to hear, like, I have a friend that I brought recently, and she's like, which of these shoes brands should I buy for a climbing shoe? And I'm like, oh, you're really getting into this. Like, this is awesome. Like, that feeling is amazing. So I feel like that's what kind of keeps me going in these outdoor spaces. It's kind of, being that conduit for someone. And then on the other end, the completely other end, I do a lot of it out of spite. And, you know, when you kind of get all of this pushback, and it just kind of like, it gives me energy, right? It makes me want to push back in a way that is going to be healthy for all of us. And that means me instead now helping the people that would have probably been pushed out before. And yeah, it's always changing, like my social community with the outdoors. So yeah, I really credit, I think, the online community. And I'll maybe make a plug real quick for Maylise Edwards, who I do some work with for mentoring on the side with her, but she is an online rock climber that used to be, you know, competing in like national competitions and everything. And seeing her on social media was, I think, a huge inspiration. And I don't really like that word, but to when we finally like reached out to each other and started to tell our respective stories, like they all aligned with the different experiences where maybe the rock climbing route that you needed to get to was like past the no trespassing sign. And all your friends want to go and you're like, oh, I don't want to do that because I don't want to, you know, even give any excuse for something to go wrong. So yeah, I think I have to credit her too, as like being a huge help, because she is still like, you know, paving the way, I think, in you know, different avenues in rock climbing. So yeah.
Awesome. That's great. So for folks in the audience, if you've got questions for our panelists, we probably have time for one question to get to. And while we wait to see if anything pops up, I love all your responses. I think the balance of both building community and capacity building that y'all referenced in terms of, you know, if you don't see it, build it, but also doing it out of spite or stubbornness, right, is a very real answer. And like, yeah, sometimes that is what drives us, right? Is just because someone said you're not supposed to be here, and it's just like, bet. Hold my beer, right? Whatever the meme is. So I also like Kareemah hearing you say like you're now getting money and sponsorship from the same orgs that paid you no mind before. I also love that, and because it's just like, yes, we're out here. We are outside. And I think that's so much about also why, we're doing things like Black and Environment, right? Because we are here, we are outside. So I'm again so grateful for all y'all being here. And I see we've got a question in the chat. So Monica Goldberg asks, are you all aware of groups or individuals pushing for better access to marine resources for people of color? So a marine resource specific question.
Yeah, I'm a marine resource advocate, and so I always want to see whether my ocean is also part of the conversation. And I know there are groups out there, but I'm curious what your guys' familiarity or excuse or oh sure, of course, BIMS, yeah.
Yeah, BIMS is a good one. Were you gonna add to that, Amber, or was BIMS your?
Oh yeah, it was BIMS. BIMS is fantastic. Black and Marine Science. Tiara Moore, great individual who founded that organization and is doing really awesome work. So I feel like they cover a lot of bases.
And also National Association of Black Scuba Divers. So I am on the North Face Explore Fund Council, and I got to meet Tara, who covered their story in diving for the slave ships, following the slave Atlantic trade, and actually finding all these slave ships that some were purposely sunken to save money and killed our ancestors, those who didn't make it to this particular land we are taking space on. So I would also follow them and some of the work that they're doing that is actually quite Black centered on that part of American history.
That's awesome. Yeah, that's a good one. Thank you for that.
There's also, I forgot, Black Women in Ecology, Evolution, and Marine Science is another good one.
WIMS. Okay. Awesome. Are there any other questions? We also, Sharon's going to drop a link to a survey for folks to complete, and we use it for feedback for planning for future events, and are constantly trying to figure out where the need is or where's the excitement for guests or even different types of venues, panels, Instagram lives, different things like that. So any questions that y'all had for each other? I know, especially since we've got our two climbers, and the climbing community is large but not large at the same time.
Maybe I'd be curious to hear you guys' like next outdoor excursion, what you're gonna do or what you're planning, if you have something in the works. Because right now I'm like doing field work. So I even came from like sampling turtles today. So that's my field work or outdoor stuff right now that's taking up my mind. But yeah, I'm like, where am I gonna go rock climbing next?
Monday, actually, if everything works out and it doesn't rain. I've actually never been rock climbing in North Carolina. I come so often all the time for so many different reasons. Like re-registering my car. Which is why I chose to drove it here instead of flying. But I'm supposed to be doing some rock climbing around the Durham area on Monday with some colleagues and paraclimbing with some local folks. Because my birthday's Sunday, the day after Earth Day. And since I chose to work through my birthday, that is probably what I'm going to do before I get on a plane to Memphis that night. So, yeah.
Awesome. Happy early birthday.
Yeah. Happy early birthday. Y'all are inspiring me to get back into climbing. I've, started it out a number of years ago, but it's been very on and off. And then every time I have this big gap, I feel like I have to relearn things. And so I hope to continue with that. And thank you for the motivation. I will be doing field work soon as well. I do my field work in Puerto Rico. And so that's exciting. And it was like 80 degrees today. So I'm also trying to expand my definition of adventure to be like walking around the pond by my apartment complex and trying to find excitement in the things around me. So I'm trying to just go outside for walks more.
My next outdoor activity is also this weekend. So LA Astra, we're flying to Utah to play against the teams that are based out of Utah and Colorado. And maybe, I guess I'll put in the link here, but all of our games are live streamed and free through YouTube. So I guess I'll find that. And if you want to watch Ultimate Frisbee for the first time, now I, have maybe got some extra eyes in the virtual audience. That would be a lot of fun. It's interesting because this pro league that I'm playing for has different rules than like the other ultimate, like the traditional Ultimate Frisbee, which everybody, if they know Ultimate, then that's the one that they're familiar with, but it's kind of same, but different. So yeah.
Yeah. Give us the links. We'll watch you dunk on some more girls. Awesome. Cindy, I know you kind of hinted, but you asked the question, so I just wanted to check in and see if there's anything on the other end.
Yeah, that's true. My weekends, I feel like I'm trying to catch up with work, but it's still, a lot of the ski resorts are open right now, and I would still like to go. Because yeah, we've had crazy snow in California, and it's still up there in Tahoe. And the beauty of being a student is you still get access to student discount prices. So yeah, hopefully going skiing sometime soon. But yeah, it's also like 80 something. It feels like 80 something degrees right now. So I don't know.
Awesome. Well, I wish you all the best and all the joy and fun in your upcoming activities and travels. And on behalf of Black and Environment, I want to thank you all again so much for joining us this evening, and thank you to the audience and all the participants. And we've got more events tomorrow. That'll be the last full day of programming for Black and Environment. So hopefully, y'all can check in to an event there, but thank y'all again so much. And we really appreciate you taking the time to join us tonight.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you for having us. It was definitely a pleasure to get to meet some new people too. And maybe we'll get to connect outdoors in the future in person.
Yeah, that's the goal that we're working towards is
Yeah, fingers crossed.
networking. And yeah, so definitely let's keep talking.
Yes, really great to connect with you all.
So thank y'all so much.